Sutra word law happiness. We think positively and dream of our vision of happiness every day. Happy is the one who knows how to dream, as well as let go and forget negativity. According to the American Declaration of Independence, all people have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Of course, each person has their own understanding of what happiness is. But when someone is happy, it's always noticeable, and it doesn't matter who they are, a homeless wanderer or a millionaire, an ordinary person or a pop star. As the first lines of Anna Karenina say, unhappy families, and people, are each unhappy in their own way, but when everything is going well, we can tell just by looking at someone. What unites all happy people? A good mood, a smile on their face, positive emotions, and an optimistic view on life are just a few of the signs by which we recognize happiness. So, what prevents us from being happy? Each person creates their own individual world. It is entirely dependent on our actions, thoughts, feelings, and emotions. All of these contribute to our future karma, shaping our happiness or unhappiness. Happiness doesn't depend on external conditions. It depends on internal conditions, said Dale Carnegie. Our own Russian Carnegie, Kozma Prutkov, formulated it 100 years earlier and even more succinctly: if you want to be happy, be happy. The perception of a glass being half empty, pessimist, or half full, optimist, is tied to the fact that the meanings of bad and good are fluid. A millionaire won't be as excited about a new Mercedes as a beggar would be about finding an apple. Austrian psychiatrist and former Nazi concentration camp prisoner Viktor Frankl recalled that even in the camp, despite the horror of that existence, prisoners experienced moments of joy. Our body, even in the most extreme conditions, is capable of finding balance between absolute happiness and absolute misery. One can be happy even in a hospital bed. After all, we all face the same inevitable end. Some people fixate on the bad, while others are simply happy to see another sunny day. Reality is what we imagine it to be. The ability to forget and forgive negativity makes life easier and calmer. A person's hormonal background, particularly the levels of serotonin and endorphins in their body, significantly affects their sense of happiness. Interestingly, this can be increased through certain practices, like those used by yogis. They raise serotonin levels by deliberately inducing hallucinations, which develop the brain's serotonin system. Renowned Spanish neurophysiologist X. Delgado stated, "Happiness is a relative concept, equally dependent on the reality around us and on how we interpret it. Understanding the mental mechanisms can make the search for happiness easier and reduce unnecessary suffering." Biologically speaking, happiness can be described as a state where a person or animal has the means and mechanisms to satisfy all their needs, or the majority of them. Throughout individual development, needs arise, are supplemented, or are replaced by others. As a result, each person forms their own image of happiness, the situation in which all needs are met. For some, happiness is symbolized by material wealth, for others by freedom from social pressures, and for others still by a sense of usefulness to society. One way or another, these desires stem from our inherent needs, which are the driving force behind our actions. If, while chasing after happiness, you ever find it, like an old woman searching for her glasses, you'll discover it was on your nose the whole time. George Bernard Shaw. A fool sleeps with happiness resting above his head. Motivation is formed based on needs. In its simplest form, motivation, according to academician P.V. Semenoff, is the mechanism for activating memories of ways to satisfy needs. Satisfying any need is always accompanied by emotion. Emotions serve as a regulatory mechanism, helping to recall information from memory about resources available to meet those needs. When the result doesn't match expectations, it causes dissatisfaction, prompting the individual to either apply a different approach or adjust their plan. But if the result matches the expectation, positive emotions arise, signaling to reinforce the new sequence of actions in memory. Famous American psychologist William James, a founder of pragmatism, developed the concept of feedback between habitual actions and the emotions they trigger. For example, if faith encourages people to engage in daily prayers, the repetition of these prayers strengthens a person's faith or can even help a non-believer develop a religious outlook. This also explains the famous American advice, keep smiling. If a person is in a good mood and always smiling, consciously choosing to smile can create a good mood, regardless of circumstances. If you want to be happy, be happy. Kozma Prutkov. Happiness comes to those who seek it. In classical philosophy, the concept of positivity has two additional meanings beyond the common usage. These help explain the principle identified by James. Hegel titled one of his early works on the positivity of the Christian religion, based on the idea that Christianity is positive in the sense of its conscious assertiveness. It manifests positivity toward changing life circumstances, unlike natural religion, which adapts to circumstances. Christianity positively transforms a person according to a pre-existing pattern, while natural religion allows for excessive variability. Thus, positivity is a consciously attained quality that requires discipline and willpower to achieve the value we believe in. A different interpretation of positivity was proposed by French philosopher Auguste Comte, the founder of sociology. He coined the term. Comte defined positivity as the verification of theory by facts. He applied the term positive to knowledge and clearly distinguished positive, empirically proven knowledge from knowledge not verified by experience, which is, therefore, scientifically questionable, for example, metaphysical or religious knowledge. Although these are two almost opposing understandings of positivity, they both affirm positivity through human actions, either by defying facts or by relying on them. A person builds a world of confidence. The key is that a person doesn't let circumstances control them, doesn't seek the impossible, but expands their field of possibilities. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. U.S. Declaration of Independence. Our happiness is in our hands. Historians of the French Annals School claimed that despite the harsh living conditions, people in the Middle Ages were no less happy than modern-day people. Medieval people feared God, the devil, plague, famine, and the wrath of their lords. Life expectancy was half of what it is today, food was far worse, and medicine was inaccessible to the common townsman. Yet, people lived, loved, bore children, made great discoveries, and won glorious victories. How did they manage? One of the psychological resilience mechanisms of medieval society was revealed by Russian historian and literary scholar Mikhail Bakhtin, who developed the concept of carnivalesque or comedic culture. Carnival provided medieval people with an opportunity to immerse themselves in an atmosphere of happiness, a raucous celebration that broke the monotony of gray days. Through carnival laughter came liberation. Carnival laughter, first of all, is communal. As we've said before, communality is part of the very nature of carnival. Everyone laughs together. This is laughter in public. Second, it is universal, directed at everything and everyone, including the participants themselves. The whole world seems funny and is perceived in its comedic aspect. in its joyous relativity, and third, finally, this laughter is ambivalent, it is joyful, triumphant, and at the same time mocking, it laughs and mourns, affirms and negates, buries and revives. Such is carnival laughter, wrote Mikhail Bakhtin. Through the boundless carnival joy, where low and high exchanged places, a person emerged renewed. They were filled with positivity, accepted reality, reconciled with the inevitable, and found the strength to move forward. The phenomenon of carnival laughter was captured by Bakhtin in his analysis of Gargantua and Pantagruel, perhaps the funniest novel of the late Middle Ages. The novel tells the adventures of two gluttonous giants, filled with coarse humor about the human body, food, obscenities, and profanity. Yet, the life of the novel's author, Rabelais, could also serve as an example of overcoming life's hardships through carnival laughter. Happiness lies at our feet while we chase after it. Most people are about as happy as they make up their minds to be. Abraham Lincoln. Notably, experts claim that the culture of laughter among the Russian people has traditionally differed from that of Western Europe. This might explain our current, noticeably less positive attitude towards reality compared to foreigners. In Russia, there were customs tied to laughter and carnival, some of which are still preserved in folk traditions, such as Svyatki, Maslenitsa, the Night of Ivan Kupala, the Skomorok festivals, and many others. However, unlike Catholicism, Orthodoxy did not have any official endorsement of laughter. The Russian carnival tradition was viewed as a serious violation of church morality, and after the festive chaos, purification was required. The Domostroy, a set of household rules, forbade laughing and playing with children. While Catholicism sought to tame laughter, Orthodoxy strictly forbade it, leading to a distinct feature of the Russian people, laughing when it was not allowed. The Orthodox ideal of asceticism and obedience rejected what such laughter brought: freedom and dominance of the material and physical. This conflicted with certain national traits like love of freedom, wildness, and the drive to overcome barriers. Thus, laughter in Russia from ancient times to the present day held a special place, resolving this internal contradiction within the Russian soul. In their studies of the culture of laughter, scholars note the psychotherapeutic role of traditional Russian shastushki, folk ditties. Here's what they concluded when analyzing shastushki recorded during folklore and ethnographic expeditions in Russian villages in the first half of the 20th century, when correlating the repertoire of shastushki with the personality of the informant. We noted a connection between the nature of the ditties and self-esteem and attitude towards the world. Even among people living in the same village, of the same age, who experienced the same objective hardships of life, the repertoire varied depending on their worldview. Seek the keys to happiness in your own hands. If you want to lead a happy life, you must be attached to a goal, not to people or things. Albert Einstein. Researchers present examples of different types of shastushki. In the first case, poor am I, poor am I. Born into poverty. If I were a piece of glass, I'd have shattered long ago. In the second case, the shastushki have a different tone. Drink, girls, drink the wine. It's 40 degrees strong. Single or married? We'll love him all the same. Not all my time is spent crying over sorrow. I must set aside a small piece of it for joy. The first case illustrates a hard life, but since it's conveyed through a comic genre, the humorous treatment of sorrow helps people cope with reality by accepting it as it is. In the second case, the chastushka seeks to highlight something positive, trying to see life more joyfully than it might appear. Look at the world joyfully, and it will seem joyful. Seek the keys to happiness in your own hands, teaches a Russian proverb. Where does happiness live? Beyond distant mountains or within a person's heart? Does it come on its own, or must it be sought? People answer this question differently, but it remains essential to them. Happiness is the magic essence of life itself, its music. Russian proverbs speak about this a lot. A happy person is like a bun dipped in honey. Don't be born smart or handsome, be born lucky. Happiness is more valuable than strength, wisdom, or wealth. It's no secret that fate doesn't always smile on people, but even in sorrow, seek happiness. Some people simply don't notice it. The fool sleeps while happiness lies at his head. A person chases happiness, but it lies at his feet. Some merely dream of happiness, while others know how to rejoice in what they have. If you have flowers, rejoice in the flowers. If there are no flowers, rejoice in the buds, a Vietnamese proverb. When it's warm, don't dream of tomorrow's warmth. When you're happy, don't dream of future happiness, says Mongolian wisdom. Seeing happiness is a special talent, but it can be developed and multiplied. As the famous Athonite monk, Elder Paisios the Athonite, says in his parable about the bee and the fly. The poor fly thinks only about dirty ditches, but the bee knows where the lily grows, where the iris is, and where the hyacinth is. People are the same. Some are like the bee, loving to find something good in everything, while others are like the fly, always striving to see only the bad. So, whom do we want to resemble? Negative-minded people love to blame their misfortunes on fate and bitterly ask, "Did I steal a calf from God, that everyone shuns me? Or why was I passed over for the green wine chalice?" They complain, "Such is our fate, stabbed by pitchforks." This is said about them, "On poor Makarka, even the pine cones fall, he seems to be cursed." No matter how different various nations' ideas of the paths to happiness may be, the central focus of proverbs, sayings, and tales is that everyone is the master of their own happiness. Happiness is within us, not around or nearby. He who seeks happiness will find it. Happiness is not a bird, it won't come on its own. Often, people think happiness is far away, but it has already arrived silently. Giovanni Boccaccio. Happiness is within us, not around us. At the same time, folk wisdom warns, happiness is not a horse, it doesn't travel along a straight road. It's easy to find happiness, but even easier to lose it. Seek new happiness, but don't lose the old one. You don't run from happiness, you chase it. Reason is given to humans to recognize and hold on to their happiness. Happiness without wisdom is a leaky sack. Happiness is great, but wisdom is lacking. With good reasoning, one can avoid unnecessary complaints and negative thoughts that prevent seeing the world in a bright and joyful way. Why grieve over what can't be undone? I sold my troubles like the neighbor's wife. And, of course, a simple faith is needed that happiness will be kind to us. Happiness will find you, even on the stove. Whatever the soul desires, God will give. Things go well, as if dancing. Wherever we are or whatever we do, there's an inner indicator that determines our true state. Are we happy now or not? Are we doing the right thing, and are we heading in the right direction? This feeling is both objective, like physical health, and simultaneously internal, intimate, even physiological. This true sense of self, am I happy or unhappy, points us towards the right path, the right purpose, destiny, or work. It is a state of high spirit in the fullness of physical and mental strength, almost divine, which the ancients called acme. You can reach happiness by two paths. The first is external. By acquiring a better home, better clothing, and more pleasant friends, we can attain happiness and satisfaction to some extent. The second path is spiritual development, leading to inner happiness. However, these two approaches are not equivalent. External happiness without inner happiness cannot last long. If life seems bleak to you, if your heart lacks something, you will not be happy no matter how much luxury surrounds you. But if you have achieved inner peace, you can be happy even in the most difficult circumstances, teaches the spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism, the 14th Dalai Lama. Don't be born smart or handsome, be born lucky. Happy people are not that common, and they are quite unlike everyone else. They seem to glow, and their strength allows others to experience happiness too. They stand out in every field among monks, politicians, artists, teachers, business people. Why does this happen? Perhaps because these people know how to rise above their selfish instincts, which tend to consume the average, undeveloped person. Their ability to forget the bad, ignore evil, and forgive is key. It is no coincidence that it is said, "And forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us." This law works, it cleanses the soul, gives it new strength, and allows it to move forward. Those who work with their soul for the sake of their own happiness live happily. A teacher is happy when observing the growth of their students' knowledge, a gardener is happy when seeing the fruits of a tree they've planted, an artist is happy when starting a new painting, a philosopher is happy when developing their thoughts, and a mother is happy when placing her child on her lap. Happiness surrounds those who generate it, for they have access to this extraordinary source of energy. The cause of joy usually lies not so much in the nature of circumstances as in the mind of people. Many, despite their wealth, find life unbearable, while others, living in extreme poverty, remain the most joyful, said John Chrysostom. Christ's concern for the happiness of his listeners explains how he structured the Sermon on the Mount. The first points were the Beatitudes, blessings, by fulfilling which a person could connect with the source of true happiness, Matt 5:3. The right mindset and reflection on the image of true happiness are key to achieving it. Happiness is often seen as something external. But it is not outside, it is within us, in a spirit that is joyful and at peace. If it pleases the Lord and is not harmful to a person, external happiness is also given. In general, Christians are commanded to pray without ceasing, 1 Thess 5:17, but this refers not only to the recitation of prayers but also to a general attitude. Prayer is, after all, an appeal to God, the source of life and true happiness. The teaching of constant prayer, therefore, is the teaching of regular reflection on happiness and the paths to attaining it. He who is served by happiness worries about nothing. Happy is he who considers himself happy. Henry Fielding. What's the point of lamenting what cannot be changed? One of the well-known Christian ascetics, John of Kronstadt, gave this advice to novice monks: monks, monks. Do not look back. Remember Lot's wife. Remember Lot's wife is a warning sign. Everything that happened to her is described in Genesis chapter 19. The condition for achieving the desired goal, salvation, was not to look back, to let go of the past life. Lot's wife could not fulfill this condition. Do not be captivated by thoughts of the sins you have committed, lest they rekindle in you. Do not dwell in your mind on the sins you once committed, lest they be renewed. Be confident that they were forgiven when you gave yourself to God in repentance, and doubt it not, said Anthony the Great, 4th century. In the Islamic tradition, One hadith conveys these words of the Prophet Muhammad: the state of a believer is amazing. Everything that happens to him is good. If joy befalls him, he gives thanks, and that is good for him. And even if harm befalls him, he is patient, and that is good for him. This hadith teaches us to perceive life positively, to see the good in everything that happens. From the perspective of Kabbalah, happiness is the sensation of eternity and the perfection of creation, and of oneself within it. For this is the state of our root, from which we developed, and what is in the root is perceived by us as the most desirable and perfect fulfillment, as happiness. Happiness is more valuable than strength, intellect, or wealth. A happy person is like a honey-dipped roll. There are 3 traps that steal happiness: regret for the past, anxiety for the future, and ingratitude for the present, said Osho, a representative of Neo-Hinduism and a prominent mystic of the 20th century. In turn, scientific studies by psychologists have revealed a surprising pattern: gratitude for what we already have makes us more content with our lives. Optimism is a wonderful trait that is beneficial to each of us. If we analyze everything we already have and recognize what we can be grateful for, we will feel happier. Psychologist Dan Gilbert expressed this idea. In his research, he tracked people's emotional states, measuring their sense of happiness. The results clearly showed that people are more attracted to and appreciate what they already possess, rather than what does not belong to them. That is why it's important to realize what we already have. Once we understand this, our emotional state will improve automatically, and our brain will do the rest of the work for us. Winston Churchill once said, "A pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity, an optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty." Optimists and pessimists approach the tasks before them in different ways. The optimist believes that the difficulties in their path are temporary and can be overcome. They don't dwell on previous negative events, constantly replaying them in their minds, but instead draw conclusions from what happened and actively apply the lessons learned. It has long been proven that positive thinking strengthens the immune system, prevents the development of chronic diseases, and helps people cope with difficulties. Positively minded people receive more support from society, are less prone to stress, and are much less likely to experience depression. It's hard to disagree with the words of Lope de Vega: "Hope for happiness, even if deceptive, never harms a person because it makes life easier." In this logic, we always end up winning. Happiness is not something that floats in the air, it is earned with effort. Happiness is not a bird that will fly to you on its own.